Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So this is the second part of our talk about what Islam teaches us about modern economics. In part 1, we discussed how modern economic textbooks make no mention of religion, morality, and so the impression is created that Islam or any religion is completely irrelevant to economics. Now, this is very strange because there are many issues in economics like equality, inequality, which have a lot to do with economics. To understand why economics is written in such a way that there is no mention of morality, we have to study European history, because this ilm, this knowledge, was created by Europeans within a certain historical context. And this was discussed in part 1, that basically there was warfare between Protestants and Catholics, and this led to the necessity of creating a type of knowledge which would be neutral, which would have no reference to religion, so that both parties could agree to it. Now the problem is that Catholics and Protestants had different ideas about morality, but economics cannot be done without morality. So in order to create the objective knowledge that they had to hide the morality. So it was not explicitly discussed. And this was the reason that economics today makes no mention of morality. And in fact, because it claims to be completely factual, objective, neutral, it has been widely accepted as such, and it has actually become the new religion of mankind. So to understand a little bit more about this religion, we have to understand that when the Europeans rejected Christianity, and they also rejected God, afterlife, day of judgment, and so naturally then the goal of life became to maximize pleasure that you get from living. Jeremy Bentham was the prophet of this new religion. He called himself a prophet, and he said that Christianity cannot be the basis of morality, so we need to create a new basis. And so what is going to be the basis of morality now? This is what we can call the worship of desire. That is, if I do something, what is a good action? A good action is something which gives me pleasure. What is a bad action? A bad action is something which gives me pain. So basically this is the origin of the theory of utility maximization, which is now currently taught in all of economics, not as a religion but as a science. But actually the truth is that it is still a religion. So what are some of the key beliefs of this new religion of secular modernity? Well, one we have discussed already, that the goal of life is to maximize wealth, pleasure, power, whatever you want. I mean, every person has a chance to choose their goals and do whatever they like, and everyone has the right to pursue whatever goals he or she sets for himself. And all is fair in love and war. Since this is my religion, nobody can prevent me from following my religion, except for the fact that we must avoid conflict. If my religion conflicts with your religion, then what should we do? This is the main problem of secular modern religion. So the solution to this problem is that among different nations, there are no rules. Power is the only rule. If I can force everybody else to follow me, then this is perfect. Might makes right. Within one nation, since we have to maintain peace, we can't have continuous warfare. So we create a set of rules by democracy, and then everybody must follow these rules by force. That is the job of the state, of the legal system, to make sure that anybody who doesn't follow rules is punished. But now the problem is that although it was supposed to be that the laws are created by consensus, by democracy, actually votes can be purchased, and so laws are created to favor the rich and the powerful. If you can just look at one example, the um, in the US, the public wants to have gun laws because they are having daily shootings of public in schools and in public places. But the gun lobby is very powerful and it doesn't allow this to happen. Similarly, an example of how there are no laws between nations, we see that the coalition destroyed the entire nation of Iraq, killing more than 1 million civilians and destroying all their infrastructure, and there was no outcry, no protest at this injustice. So power gives you the right to do whatever you want to do. Now, this religion of secular modernity doesn't claim to be a religion. It claims to be just the voice of reason itself. It's rationality, it's based on facts, it's based on logic. And because of this, this religion has spread to all of humanity. Now, in particular, one part of this religion is the religion of economics. And this, when you read the books, it says that this is a positive theory. That is, it describes what people actually do. And it is the theory of what rational people with brains will do. But the fact of the matter is that this is not true. If you look at it empirically, do human beings maximize utility? You find that this is not true. There are so many experiments and examples which show that human beings don't maximize utility. People go in to save lives of strangers at the risk of their own lives. In very simple real life settings, there is a game which is called the ultimatum game, which has been played in many laboratories all over the world, and these results have been replicated widely. If you put two people and you make one person the leader, it's called the dictator, and the dictator gets to choose how to split a certain amount of money between the two people, and he has complete authority. So you put, for example, 1,000 rupees on the table and you say, okay, Mr. Dictator, you get to choose how much you will take and how much you will give to the other one. So according to the Economist and according to economic theory, the dictator should keep everything because that maximizes his utility. But in real life, in real world, the vast majority of people do not do this. Most people do a split 50-50. Many people keep a little bit more, like 60% or 70%. Very, very few take everything, and those very few are almost always economists. So the non-economists find this puzzling. Why aren't people maximizing utility? Economists find it puzzling, and non-economists find it puzzling that how can somebody be so selfish as to take everything? So Islam provides us with new foundations on which we can create a new theory of economics which has realistic human behavior. So Islam, the key principle of Islam that we need to use here is that Islam encourages us to fulfill our needs and even comforts, but it says do not follow your idle desires. So there is a very strong distinction. As long as something is useful for me, I am perfectly permitted and encouraged to consume that, but I should not waste. Israf and tabzir, wasting, excessive use, conspicuous consumption, all of these are strongly prohibited in Islamic teachings. So in an ayat of the Quran, and there are many such, it is said that, have you seen the one who has taken his nafs, his idle desires, as God? And this actually blinds people to their own welfare. See, if you just greedily try to take everything for yourself, then you hurt others. And actually the biggest source of happiness for human beings is friendship, love, comfort, warmth, society. So if you act very selfishly, then you basically destroy your own happiness. So this is the position of Islam, that fulfill your needs and lead a comfortable life, but do not waste, care for others, think about others. But as opposed to this, economists say that the consumer must pursue all of his desires. If you have your wants, if you have your needs, wherever they come from, you must fulfill them. And the job of the economist is to try to fulfill both needs and wants. And this is very different from the Islamic principle. So Islam tells us that what we should do, the job of the economist, is to try to make sure that everybody's needs are met. You make sure that you should feed the hungry, you take care of the housing needs, education, health, and not only human beings, but all of the creation of the God is the family of God. So we should be trying to make sure that the animals, the birds, the fish, that these are all the creation of God, and we should be trying to make sure that their needs are taken care of. As opposed to this, in the West, everyone is everyone is trying to fulfill their own needs and wants. There is no differentiation between needs and wants. So if a millionaire wants Mercedes, that is also part of the job of the economist to fulfill. And if children want bread, this is also part of the economist's job. But one thing is that the demand is backed by money. So if the billionaire wants something and he puts more money behind it, then that demand will be given priority. And if a lot of children are hungry but they have no money, then that demand gets no priority in the economic system. So this is a morality. It's economic theory says it's moral to fulfill the desires of the billionaire if there's money behind it, and it is moral to give priority to that demand over the demand of people who are hungry if they don't have any money. But there is no mention that is made of this morality. So now the job of the economist, the Western economist, is impossible because there is too much needs and wants and you can't fulfill all of them, and that's why you have scarcity. But if you think about just needs, then there is no scarcity. There is plenty of, $29 trillion were spent on bailing out the banks, and a very, very small portion of that would be enough to feed, clothe, house, educate every person in the world. So, according to the Western theory, the main problem of economics is scarcity. There is not enough, and so the solution is to have growth, to create more goods so that you can fulfill all the wants and the needs. But the problem is that growth does not fulfill wants, because the wants expand as you keep on growing. And this has been noticed, that we have been growing and growing and growing, but people are not happier because the wants keep increasing as you increase the goods. As opposed to this, in Islamic theory, we say that you should fulfill needs. Now the needs are fulfilled, the needs cannot grow. So if you and already there is enough goods to fulfill all the needs. So the Islam identifies the main problems of economics as israf and tabzir, wasteful consumption and conspicuous consumption. You consume things in order to make others envious. So all of these are wrong social norms which are prohibited in Islam. And the solution, Islamic solution, is that instead of competition, we should have cooperation. Instead of greed, we should have generosity. Instead of everyone being individualistic and pursuing their own desires without regard for others, we should have social responsibility. I should care about others. Even if I can have an expensive meal for thousands of rupees, I should be concerned that the person who is serving me the meal, maybe his children are hungry, maybe his children don't have enough medicine, and then I'm not allowed to eat an expensive meal and not worry about whether or not other people have medicine to treat their children. So the challenge for us Muslims today is that we have to rethink economics from the ground up, from the foundations. It's not making small changes here and there. It's not economics equals capitalist economics plus zakat minus interest. We have to change the very foundations of the subject. We cannot take scarcity as our foundation, because the scarcity foundation is based on something which is haram, that is based on treating wants and needs equally. It's based on treating rich people's idle desires as more important than the poor people's hunger. So this has to be challenged and denied that this is wrong, and we have to start from a different place. And the main problem in starting from new foundations is that people are too impressed by the Western intellectual structures. They say that, oh, they have so much mathematics, they have so much deep analysis, and so they have been studying this for centuries, so they can't be wrong. So we must follow their methods. So this is the biggest obstacle. So the thing that we need to do is to shake off this intellectual shock and awe that prevents us from challenging Western theories, because there's too much mathematics and there's too much impressive structures. We have to realize that at the foundation, that the problem is in the foundation, that it's wrong. So instead of thinking about being impressed by mathematics, we should see through the mathematics to see the poisonous and harmful and damaging ideas that are hidden inside that math. And that is the challenge for the Muslims today. And this is the end of the second part.